What's up guys, Motocross Action is here and we have the 2022 KTM 150 two-stroke here and we're excited to break it down for you in this video. Alright guys, the 2022 KTM 150SX two-stroke is a lot of fun. This bike doesn't really have any structural performance updates for the 2022 season, but it does come with that beautiful orange frame, some updated graphics, and a blue seat cover to make it a little more racy looking. We love the orange frame. It definitely makes this bike look a little more factory, kind of like Cooper Webb's bike. As for the rest of the model, it does come with the same updates that it got in 2021, which were pretty significant, and those include the forks. The forks got new air and oil bypass notches. We talk about this in all of our Austrian bike videos. The WP Exact air forks are very impressive for 2021 and we're happy to see that they brought over the same technology for 2022. Basically, air forks, they're known for being kind of harsh, kind of bouncing, maybe like a pogo stick. That would be the absolute worst air fork out there. The new air and oil bypass notches are a lot bigger, making sure they blow off steam, blow off high pressure peaks, and try to make the forks a little more plush, a little more like a spring fork, while still maintaining that extra 3 pounds weight savings over standard coil spring forks. So WP has done a good job with the suspension on these models. It also comes with a new lift height setting at the mid valve that also increases the tunability of the WP Exact air forks and makes them better as well. So this model, it comes in at $7,699. That's only $200 more than the KTM 125 two-stroke. This bike is exactly the same as the KTM 125 except for the engine. KTM, they make a 150 factory kit engine that you can buy and turn your 125 two-stroke into this 150 two-stroke. And that kit runs for $830 and it comes with a cylinder head, piston, power valve, combustion chamber insert, control covers, power valve flap, and all the rings and gaskets you need. So for an $830, you can turn your 125 two-stroke into this 150, or you can spend an extra $200 at the dealership and buy it straight off the showroom floor, 150 just like it is here. So if you're racing the Schoolboy 1 class at Loretta's or some other 125 only races, obviously this bike isn't for you. But if you're a vet rider that you're racing in 4-stroke classes, you're racing in kind of open classes, if you're somebody that's not racing very often, this bike is your friend, okay? We love this model. It's got a lot more power coming out of the corners, an extra 3 horsepower. So it's up just above 40 horsepower compared to the 37 that you find on the KTM 125. That makes this bike a lot easier to hit jumps on, comes out of corners faster. However, initial impressions and breaking it apart, the stock KTM 125 versus the stock 150 125, it's actually easier for our test riders to ride a 125 instead of the 150. Why is that? Well, the bigger cylinder, the different piston, just the more power that the 150 has is more of a top-end revving bike and something that you really have to work to get into the power band on, where with the KTM 125, it rolls onto the power smoother and it's just a little bit easier to ride. So if you're somebody that's looking for easy to ride and more comfortable, the 125 is definitely friendlier, where if you're looking for something that's an all-out racer, 150 is your go-to. As for the gearing on this bike, stock is a 13:48 gear ratio. and it's pretty good for skilled racers who can carry speed, but most of our pro test riders in the MXA Wrecking Crew, they actually like a 1449 combination, which really beefs up that bottom end power. Also, on tighter tracks and our less skilled riders, they like a 1450 ratio just to get a little more beef coming out of the corners, a little more girth to get out of the tight corners. So gear and ratio, that's something that we always mess with on these bikes. Another thing that we found really helps out the KTM 125 and the KTM 150 two-strokes is pipe and silencers. FMF and Pro Circuit, they make great pipes and silencers that help this bike out a lot. Good luck finding them right now because it's super hard to buy pipes right now with increased demand going on in our industry. But if you can get your hands on one, it'll definitely help this bike out a lot. Also, we adjusted the power valve quite a bit today, and what we were looking for is a little more power coming out of the turn. So a lot of our test riders ride 4 strokes more often than 2 strokes. With the power valve, basically it works as a flap, and when you get on the gas, the flap opens and it allows you to get full power coming from the 150 engine. We backed out the power valve screw. It's a Robertson wrench, it's kind of weird. We backed it out to about 2 turns away from all the way out. That helped the power valve flap to open up sooner, give us a little more power coming out of the corners, and help this 150SX be a little more exciting to ride and a little bit easier to ride as well. So as for the handling, we set up our test riders to ride it at 150 millimeters on the shock today. That's kind of our go-to for most of the KTM, Husqvarna, and Gas bikes. The bike weighs in at a super light 192 pounds, so it's super fun, super easy to ride. MXA test riders always have a blast when they're riding this bike. And as a rule of thumb, as I already mentioned, our pro level test riders, they love the 150. Our novice, intermediate, vet riders, those guys kind of prefer the 125 over this bike. So long story short, if you like shifting, if you're going to be racing hard and you're going to be using all the power that you can, 150 is the way to go. Another rule of thumb with the air forks, if you haven't had air forks before, WP gives you an air pump. You got to keep your eyes on it, so make sure to check the air pressure. You'll love the WP Exact air forks if you set the pressure for you. If you don't take the time to test out your setting and figure out what number works best for you, you're going to struggle. Also, if you don't check it each time you ride, you're going to struggle as well. So if the pressure's too high, too low, it's gonna be a tough time out there. But if you make sure to be diligent, check your forks before you go out onto the track, then you'll love the WP Exact air forks. As a rule of thumb for the MXA test riders, we like to put a zip tie on the fork leg, go out and ride a few laps with the stock setting. If it's bottoming out, we know to put a little more air pressure in. If it's not even getting within 3 inches of the bottoming out, then we know we need to go a little bit less air pressure to set the fork setting and really the spring rate for the WP Exact air forks. Our goal is to get the zip tie to be within 1.5 inches from the bottom of the fork leg. That's where we find our sweet spot is, and then we do the rest of the tuning with the compression clicker on top and also with the rebound clicker down underneath the fork legs. So as with every dirt bike, it takes some time to figure out what works for you, but once you find it, you're gonna love your KTM 150. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in to our test video on the 2022 KTM 150SX 2-stroke. This bike is a test rider favorite in the MXA Wrecking Crew, and we're excited to continue riding and racing this bike throughout the year. That's all for this video. Check out motocrossactionmag.com. We got the latest news going on in the industry. We got race results from the Nationals. We also got product tests and bike tests so you can learn more about what you should be buying at your dealership, what you should check on your motorcycle, and how you can make your bike better as well. So check us out, motocrossactionmag.com. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with our latest videos, as we got a lot of content coming there. And click the thumbnails now to see some of our recent uploads.